friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for a dual purpose video that's going to go in both my random tips series and in my repurposing and recycling series. So this is just random items I wanted to talk about. Now I do have specific videos on recycling old t-shirts, old jeans, old sheets, bottles and jars, plastic bags. These are all videos that are in the recycling and repurposing playlist. And those are specific for each one of those topics. So if you're wanting more on those, I'll go ahead and link to that playlist down below for you to check out. But today it's just going to be a bunch of random things. Now, just yesterday, I had somebody email me suggesting I do a video on how to repurpose items that you're no longer going to use. For example, if you're trying to go more healthy, more organic, and you don't want to just toss this stuff, you're going to try and figure out, what do I do with the shampoo and conditioner and some of these various things that I'm just not going to use on myself anymore? Is there another use I can find for them? Well, I'll be talking about some of that today and then some. This is one I actually mentioned in my random kitchen tips and tricks, and I wanted to bring it up again because it's one of my favorite things that I came up with over a year ago, and that is recycling my old stainless steel teapot since I don't use it anymore. Ever since I got this vintage silver one at a garage sale, this is all I use for my tea now. Well, a couple of Thanksgivings ago, I came up with this really great idea when I was going to dig out the gravy boats, and I saw this teapot and I went, that will be perfect for a gravy boat, because you know how gravy boats are, they never hold enough and they're always still dripping and spilling everywhere. And the teapot, perfect. Everybody was like, this is a great idea. They loved how easy it was to use. And so this is now my new gravy boat. Works perfect. So you might even just want to go buy a stainless steel teapot, because one like this are not very expensive. In fact, I'll go ahead and link to this one down below if you're interested. But if you have one you don't use, recycle it for a gravy boat. It's great. Here's another one I've mentioned before and even did a video on, but I forgot to mention it in my video on recycling flannel, like flannel sheets, flannel shirts, whatever. And that is to make your own inserts for shoes and boots. So I did a video showing just how I did this. And sometimes you get those shoes that they just need a little more cush, or maybe they're a little bit too big and you just need to add something to them to make them fit better. Well, that's why I make these myself. It's a lot cheaper than going out and buying those ones that never last. They always wear out quickly, and you still usually have to cut them to fit the shoe anyway. And if you have little feet like me, even when I buy the smallest ones, I have to cut so much of those things. I feel like, what a waste. So I just started getting to where I make my own. And even if you do wear them out, they're easy and cheap enough to turn around and make some more. Now, let's talk a little bit about Crisco. Now, a lot of people that are following me by now should know that Crisco is something you should not be using as a food product. I don't even see it as a food product, but I used to use it a lot for making cakes and biscuits and pie crusts. And once I learned about how bad Crisco was, I got away from it completely, but I still had all this Crisco to use up. Now, this isn't Crisco, but because this was a long time ago that I did it, but you can take your old Crisco that you're not using anymore because you found out how bad it is for your health, and turn it into candles. So this is actually a soy wax candle I had made, but I've done this with Crisco to use it up, and it burns real nice. It's much softer than even your soy wax, but it does make a great candle source. You just want to make sure you have a good wick that doesn't have lead in it, but that's going to hold up as it's burning. Sometimes when you're doing something that's softer like that, you want a wick that's going to be made well enough to stand up and not get lost in the fat once you blow it out. So just a little tip there. Back before I started making my own shampoo and or using vinegar to wash my hair with, when I would buy a shampoo that I just decided it didn't work well for my hair, usually in my case it would be something that would dry it out too much, it wasn't conditioning enough, then I would repurpose it and use it as a body wash. So that's one thing you can do with a shampoo that you've bought and you just don't really like what it does for your hair. It usually is going to work very good as a body wash, so you can use it in replace of a shower gel. If you're one that's like, I don't want to use this store-bought shampoo anymore because it's full of all this junk and I'm trying to detoxify my life, then you can still take that shampoo and use it for other things. It's still going to have some soap in it, so you can use it for scrubbing out your tubs and your sinks, or even use it for washing your vehicles. And then for conditioner, if it's not a conditioner that you're trying to get rid of because you're worried about health reasons, but you didn't like how it worked on your hair, you can also use that as a replacement for shaving cream. I've done that in the past when I had a conditioner that was just junk. It didn't condition, it just wasn't conditioning enough for my very dry hair. I used it for shaving. It was great. It's actually better than any kind of shave gel you can buy. And I haven't thought of any other uses if it's something you're just trying to get rid of and not use at all because of health purposes. But maybe some other people will have some ideas that don't have to do with using on your body. And then toothpaste. Here's another one. So if you're like us and you thought, I gotta get rid of this store-bought toothpaste, especially since it's so hard to find any toothpaste that does not have fluoride in it, and you're like us and you were trying to heal your thyroid and you're trying to get all the fluoride out of your life, so you're not drinking your city tap water anymore that's fluoridated, you're getting rid of all your Teflon pans, and getting rid of that store-bought toothpaste. Well, you can still repurpose that toothpaste. Store-bought toothpaste is really good for polishing up jewelry. It will remove the tarnish from your silver or gold or even copper, and it just polishes up and shines it up really nice. I used to use that on my wedding ring when I would polish it up periodically. Just take a little toothpaste and a rag and just rub it in there real good, and you'll see a lot of junk come off, and then just rinse it off. So that's one thing you can do with old toothpaste that you're not going to use to brush your teeth with anymore. And if you're interested in what we use for brushing our teeth, I actually have 3 or 4 different tooth powder recipes. I've made a toothpaste before, but I actually find I prefer using the tooth powder, and I will link to the one we use the most. It's cheap, it's easy, it's natural, and it works well. We've been using it for years. Now cinnamon. Now here's another one. So some of us, a lot of you have probably learned that there's differences between your cassia cinnamon, which is where all the Vietnamese, all those types of cinnamons come from, and your true cinnamon, which is Ceylon cinnamon. Generally speaking, Ceylon cinnamon is much better for you. Cassia cinnamon is not unhealthy for you. It actually still has a lot of great benefits, but you have to be far more careful. In fact, I did a video on the differences between cassia and Ceylon cinnamon that I'll go ahead and link to down below, where I go into far more detail. But with cassia, you do have to be careful on the amounts you use, where Ceylon cinnamon, you don't have to worry about that. Since we use a lot of cinnamon, we switched to Ceylon. And so I had this really big bag of cassia cinnamon that it was organic, but it was cassia cinnamon. I'm like, what am I going to do with this? I didn't want to throw it out. Well, cinnamon of any variety is really good to use as a pest deterrent in your garden. So that was what I did with it. Was I sprinkled it around the plants. It's not going to hurt your plants that were having issues with different pests, and it really did help quite a bit. For around here, it doesn't work on slugs because hardly anything works on slugs. And I did a video on slug and snail control, and trust me, we know, no beer in dishes here. That doesn't work. But we do have some methods that do work to help keep our slug population down. But you can check out that video if you're interested. But anyway, for some people, the cinnamon may work on slugs, but it definitely does work on other pests as well. And a lot of your even rodents, they don't like cinnamon or anything that's strong like that. So that's one thing you can do with your cassia cinnamon. Now, a couple other things, and that is, a lot of you know I have lots of, I've made vinegar of all kinds. In fact, I just started a little bit ago this nasturtium flower vinegar. This is one I'll be using for my hair rinse, and because nasturtiums are really good for your hair. But if you got into vinegar making and you have some of those batches, I get them too, that just, maybe you just don't like the way the flavor turned out and decided, I don't want to use this in cooking with. I don't want to use it in salad dressings or sautés. Or even if it's just not quite acidic enough for doing stuff like making homemade cheese or whatever it is you need that 5% acidity, and yours just didn't quite get that strong, it's something you can use for other things. You can use it as a hair rinse like I do with mine, or you can use it in your laundry. That's that rhubarb, that dried rhubarb vinegar you would have seen a video of. I decided once it was all done, I really didn't care for either the taste or the color of it. And so I'm totally fine with that, because I go through far more vinegar using for cleaning than I do for any other purpose. So I just added it to a jar of vinegar I was already using in the laundry, and so that's where it's getting used for. So even if you don't like the way your vinegar turns out, but it's still vinegar, you don't have to toss it. You can use it for other purposes besides using in cooking and baking. And then of course there's boxes. So we could go on and on forever about the uses for various types of boxes. And maybe one of these days I should do a video just on that, but I'll just bring up two for now. And one is, if you're buying produce in boxes like this, like last year, Costco, when we were in there, we just happened to be in there when they had a bunch of organic peaches, which are always hard for us to get around here, and for a pretty good price. So we bought a bunch of them and I canned them up. And the boxes like this, your produce boxes, are perfect. Well, not really perfect, but they're pretty good for holding quart-sized jars. I can fit 8 jars into a box like this. Now, there's still space side to side. Lengthwise, it's perfect. You still have a little space in here if you want to add some other things, like smaller things in here. But anyway, so this is just some of my many herbs I have stored. So I've been putting a lot of my herbs into boxes like this to help keep them organized. It makes it a lot easier too if I can just lift a box down rather than having to, you know, dig through everything. I can just lift the box down and see what's in there. And then shoe boxes like these are 2 different boot boxes, and these are what I use for sorting out my seeds that I sell. You could do the same thing with the seeds that you're saving from your own garden or that you've bought inside the boxes themselves. I have you can see the dividers that came from canning jar boxes, and I put those in there. I had to cut them to fit, and then I just divide them up. Now these are fairly empty because at the time of year, I'm shooting this right at the end of July. You'll be seeing this at the end of August, and by then I'll have most of these empty spots filled back up. So anyway, this works really good for me to keep my seeds sorted. And by the way, you see I have the 2 boxes. This is all alphabetical order. I think A through N goes in here, and then M on goes in this box here. So I keep them sorted alphabetically. It makes it a lot easier when I'm grabbing seed packs to fill orders. So there's just a couple of ideas on recycled boxes, plus some other random ideas. And please share down below, what are some various random things you like to repurpose or recycle items for? So don't forget to check out the comments others will be putting down below, and don't forget to check out that whole playlist on the many other things that I recycle and the uses for them. And I'll probably be doing more random lists like this as more of these ideas come to mind, because I could walk around my house. I could have a video that's at least an hour long, just all the many things I've repurposed things for. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.